Civil disobedience movement, class 10 history. Civil disobedience was a law-breaking, non-violent movement which also involved non-payment of taxes. It had started with the famous Dandi March. On 12th March 1930, Gandhi started marching from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi with 78 followers. On 6th April, he picked up some salt which was left by the sea waves. Violation of the salt law symbolized the start of civil disobedience movement. So 3 points: civil disobedience movement was law breaking, non-violent, and it included or involved non-payment of taxes. It started with the famous Dandi March. Now, the name Dandi March is very interesting here because March means to move forward, to march ahead. So, that's why the name Dandi March is given, and also Dandi March started in the month of March. So, 12th March 1930 is the date, and the date on which he picked up collected some salt, that date is 6th April 1930, that which is also very interesting because the half of 12 is 6 and in the next month, so 12th March, 6th April. Violation of the salt law symbolized the start of civil disobedience movement. So Gandhiji violated the salt law, and this is what marked the beginning of civil disobedience movement. Now, what were the aims of civil disobedience movement? Removal of salt tax as it affected all sections of people, reduction of land revenue, reduction of military expenditure. So, removal of salt tax, it is very evident because in the beginning only we read in the definition that it involved the removal of taxes, non-payment of taxes. So, that's why the removal of salt tax, reduction of land revenue, and reduction of military expenditure. Okay. Now, programs of the civil disobedience movement. Abolition of salt tax, boycott of foreign clothes and British goods of all kind, boycott of liquor, non-payment of taxes and revenue. So this is basically all the boycott, the things which are included in boycott movement: boycott of liquor, boycott of foreign clothes and British goods, abolition of salt law, these kind of things. Non-payment of taxes and revenues is also included. Now, what are the causes of civil disobedience movement? Simon Commission, Indian Statutory Commission or Simon Commission was appointed to suggest constitutional reforms in the country. So, Indian Statutory Commission or Simon Commission was appointed to suggest constitutional reforms. This is very important. Constitutional reforms was appointed to suggest constitutional reforms in the country. It was a seven-member committee. So, the Simon Commission had seven members, and it was headed by Sir John Simon. So that's why the name has been inferred from Sir John Simon. All seven members were Britishers. So all the seven members were Britishers. As talks were afoot of suggesting reforms for Indians without their inclusion whatsoever, so Indians were dissatisfied. So Indians couldn't suggest those reforms. All the reforms were made by all the Britishers. So it is evident, it is clear that the Britishers won't propose reforms which would be good for the country. They would do try to do harm to the country. So the Indians were dissatisfied. They protested that their rights of self determination were violated. So they wanted to determine on their own, that determine the reforms on their own. So this initiation of the Simon Commission, and the Simon Commission was suggesting constitutional reforms. All the seven members were Britishers, so the Indians couldn't suggest any point. So they protested that their rights of self determination were violated. In the Madras session of 1927, so Dandi March occurred in 1930. It marked the beginning of civil disobedience movement. Now this is the precursor. So 1927, and this was one of the first causes. Simon Commission. It was one of the first causes, or probably it was the first cause. So that's why it dated back to 1927. So in the Madras session of 1927, all parties decided to boycott the Simon mission. On 3rd February, when all the commission landed in Mumbai, it was greeted with an all India strike. So when this Simon Commission in the month of February, it landed in Mumbai, it was greeted with an all India strike. Black flags were hoisted. So black flags, probably they were a symbolism of bondage or something like that. That's why black flags were hoisted. Processions and demonstrations were organized. People held placards in their hands with slogans of Simon, go back. So this is very important. Processions and demonstrations were organized. People held placards in their hands with the slogans of Simon, go back. In one such demonstrations, processions and demonstrations. So one such demonstration held outside the Lahore railway station. Lala Lajpat Rai was badly assaulted by Inspector Saunders, and later he succumbed to his injuries. So when we were studying about Lala Lajpat Rai in our previous chapter, there also we read that Lala Lajpat Rai protested against the Simon Commission and was badly assaulted while leading a procession outside the Lahore railway station. So outside this Lahore railway station, Inspector Saunders, Saunders. Inspector Saunders assaulted Lala Lajpat Rai outside the Lahore railway station. Why? Because Lala Lajpat Rai protested against the Simon Commission. He demonstrated some kind of something in the outside the Lahore railway station. So when did he succumb to his injuries? 3rd October 1928. So in 1927, the date is not mentioned. In 1927, the Madras session decided to boycott the Simon Commission. Probably in the next year, or probably in 1928 only, this protest started. Okay, and it was greeted with an all India airstrike. Black flags were hoisted, processions and demonstrations were organized. People held placards in their hands with slogans Simon, go back. In one such demonstration, Lala Lajpat Rai was badly assaulted, and later he succumbed to his injuries. So what are the other characteristic features, or what are the other contributions of Lala Lajpat Rai? He set up Servants of the People Society. He started the monthly magazine Young India in USA. He joined the Ghadar party. Ghadar. Like Gadar, the spelling is like Gadar only, just an H. Ghadar. He was appointed as the first president of All India Trade Union Congress. He was appointed as the first president of All India Trade Union Congress. And he was also called Sher-e Punjab, probably. Yes, Sher-e Punjab. Okay. The spelling is Sher-e Punjab and or Punjab Kesari. So Sher-e Punjab. And since he was a Punjabi, so he edited newspapers like Punjabi, because like probably Surendranath Banerjee. Let me check for once. Yes, Surendranath Banerjee edited the newspaper Bengali because it was his own mother tongue. Similarly, Lala Lajpat Rai's mother tongue is Punjabi, so he edited the newspaper Punjabi. He authored the book National Education, and he also edited the newspapers Vande Mataram and People. And he was also associated with Arya Samaj, and he was instrumental in the expansion of DAV College at Lahore. So these are the characteristic features of Lala Lajpat Rai. Now let's come back to the topic. Simon Commission. So Simon Commission ends with this. Lala Lajpat Rai's death. Now, Lahore session of 1929. And Lala Lajpat Rai passed away on 30th October 1928. Now, Lahore session of 1929. So, this all started in 1927. The Simon Commission and all of this. Or the exact year is not mentioned, but uh, the Madras session was held in 1927 only. Now, in 1928, the commission landed in Mumbai and there was an all India airstrike. This was 1928. The year 1928 ended with this. Now the year 1929. In the Lahore session of 1929, the Congress demanded Purna Swaraj or independence for the first time. Purna means complete. Like the last day we were studying that while the moderates they wanted some constitutional reforms, the extremists or the assertives they wanted complete independence. So this is the translation Purna Swaraj. So in Lahore session, the Congress demanded Purna Swaraj. It was also decided that until independence, 26th January would be observed as Independence Day every year. Very, very important. So 26th January, it is we celebrate 26th January as Republic Day. But from 1929 onwards, it was decided that 26th January would be observed as Independence Day every year. Tricolor flag was hoisted. Preparations were made for the civil disobedience movement. So the this civil disobedience movement, the preparations were started in 1929, Lahore session of 1929, and tricolor flag was hoisted. Immediate cause. Gandhi sent a letter to the Viceroy with 11 demands, which included reduction of land revenue, abolition of salt tax, etc. Rejection of the demands became the immediate cause of the movement. So, Gandhi sent a letter to the Viceroy with 11 demands. And two of the demands are abolition of salt tax, reduction of land revenue, because we read that in the aims of civil disobedience movement that removal of salt tax was one aim, and another aim was reduction of land revenue, and there is one more aim also which is not mentioned here. Probably what he demanded for this as well. He demanded for the reduction of military expenditure as well, probably, but it is one of the aims, reduction of military expenditure. Now, Gandhi Irwin Pact. Given the success of the movement, Viceroy Lord Irwin concluded a pact with Gandhi in March 1931. So, which movement it is not mentioned, but probably it's the Dandi March, because this the Lahore session it was held in 1929, and this is this Gandhi Irwin Pact. The Lord Irwin concluded with Gandhi that they would sign a pact, and that is in March 1931. So probably after the success of Dandi March, but uh, it is not mentioned. As per the pact, the following compromises were made by each side. The government agreed to withdraw all ordinances and persecutions, release all political prisoners except those guilty of violence, permit peaceful picketing of liquor shops, restore confiscated properties of satyagrahis. So, Gandhi Irwin Pact, the government agreed to withdraw all ordinances and persecutions. He agreed to release all political prisoners except those violence of guilty of violence, permit peaceful picketing of liquor shops, restore confiscated properties of satyagrahis. Two more points are there. No, one more point is there. Permit people living near the sea coast to make salt for domestic use. So these, how many points? 6 points. No, 5 points. Withdrawal ordinances and persecutions. Release all political prisoners except those guilty of violence. Permit peaceful picketing of liquor shops. Restore confiscated properties of satyagrahis. Permit people living near the seacoast to make salt for domestic use. Now, in return, Gandhi promised to suspend the civil disobedience movement and attend the second roundtable conference. So, the government agreed to withdraw all the ordinances and persecutions. He agreed to release all the political prisoners. He permitted. He promised to permit peaceful picketing of liquor shops. He promised to restore confiscated properties of satyagrahis. He promised to permit people living near the sea to make salt for domestic use. Now, in return, Gandhi promised to suspend the civil disobedience movement and attend the second roundtable conference. So this brings us to the second roundtable conference, which was held from 7 September 1931 to 1st December 1931. So almost 2 months, for a brief period of 2 months. 7 September, sorry, 3 months, not 2 months. October, November, December. Yeah, 3 months. So venue was London. So the venue was London. Gandhi alone represented the Indian National Congress. All minorities such as Muslims, Indian, Christians, Anglo-Indians and Europeans demanded either separate electorates or reservation of seats for their respective communities in the legislatures. So Gandhi alone represented the Indian National Congress in second roundtable conference. All minorities such as Muslims, Indian Christians, Anglo-Indians and Europeans. So minorities are, of course, Muslims are a part of minorities, Indian Christians are minorities, Anglo-Indians are minorities and Europeans are also minorities. Demanded either separate electorates or reservation of seats for respective communities in the legislatures. So remember, all minorities demanded either separate electorates or reservation of seats. The question of independence or responsible government was never discussed. As a result, Gandhi came back to India disappointed. So, uh, the government promised to permit many different things. He promised to withdraw all ordinances and persecutions. He promised many things, but the promises were broken. So the question of independence was never discussed. What was discussed? That the demand for either the reservation of seats or separate electorates. So Gandhi, as a result, came back to India disappointed. The suspension of the movement. Immediately after return, Gandhi renewed the movement, but given the rigorous repression exercised by the government, the movement eventually was called off in 1934. So this civil disobedience movement was again renewed. It was again called because of his disappointment. But the rigorous repression exercised by the government resulted the movement to be called off in 1934. Now, impact and significance of civil disobedience movement. Women participated in large numbers. New methods of gathering mass supports were used. Example: patrikas, prabhat pheris, manjari sena, nara sena. Non-violence was used effectively as a method of protest. Untouchables were allowed access to temples and wells of higher classes. To pacify Indians, the government had come up with the Act of 1935. So this, as a result or the impact of this civil disobedience movement, what are the impacts? Women participated in large numbers. New methods of gathering mass support were used: patrikas, prabhat pheris, Manjari Sena, Vanara Sena, Manjari Sena, Vanara Sena. Non-violence was used effectively as a method of protest. Untouchables were allowed access to the temples and wells of higher classes to pacify Indians. The government had come up with the Act of 1935. So one more thing is interesting here that in India many evil practices were there at that time. So the intensity of those practices also reduced as a result of this movement because women empowerment was there. Women participated in large numbers. Untouchability decreased up to an extent because untouchables were allowed access to the temples and wells of higher classes. And the revivalism we learned about revivalism that the moderates or the assertives the assertive this was probably done by um, I don't remember. I think it was yeah, it was Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So Bal Gangadhar Tilak was an assertive. And he did what? He organized Shivaji and Ganapati festivals to gather mass support and instill discipline and patriotism. So this was one way of revivalism. And this is also another way of revivalism, like uh, revivalism, Patrikas, Prabhat Feris, Manjari Sena, Vanara Sena. So basically gathering people, gathering mass support so that the people want to fight for their country. So the chapter has got completed. So the main uh, key features of this chapter are civil disobedience was a law-breaking non-violent movement which involved non-payment of taxes. It started with Dandi March, which initiated on 12th March 1930 and ended on 6th April 1930. Violation of the salt law symbolized the start of civil disobedience movement. The aims were removal of salt tax, reduction of land revenue, reduction of military expenditure. The programs were boycott of liquor, boycott of foreign clothes, boycott of British goods of all kinds, abolition of salt tax, non-payment of taxes and revenue. So two are related to the tax, abolition of salt tax and non-payment of taxes and revenues, and two are related to the boycott of British goods, boycott of foreign clothes, boycott of liquor. And the causes were Simon Commission, Lahore Session, these are the two causes. So the Simon Commission was appointed to suggest constitutional reforms in the country. It was headed by Sir John Simon. 7 members were Britishers. The Indians felt that their rights of self-determination were violated. So in the Madras session of 1927, all parties decided to boycott the Simon Mission. Uh, when the mission landed in Mumbai, it was greeted with an all India strike. Black flags were hoisted, processions and demonstrations were organized. People had placards in their hands with slogans of Simon, go back. In one such demonstration held outside Lahore railway station, Lala Lajpat Rai was badly assaulted by Inspector Saunders, and later he succumbed to his injuries on 30th October 1928. In Lahore session of 1929, the Congress demanded Purna Swaraj. Tricolor flags were hoisted, and it was decided that 26th January would be observed as Independence Day every year. Preparations were made for the civil disobedience movement, and the immediate cause. This was the immediate cause that Gandhi sent a letter to the Viceroy with 11 demands, which included reduction of land revenue, abolition of salt tax, etc. Rejection of demands became the immediate cause of the movement. Now, after this movement, Lord Irwin concluded a pact with Gandhi in March 31. Now, as per the pact, the following compromises were made by each side. It was kind of a treaty, a pact. So the government agreed to withdraw all ordinances and persecutions, release all political prisoners except those guilty of violence, permit peaceful picketing of liquor shops, restore confiscated properties of satyagrahis, permit people living near the seacoast to make salt for domestic use. And Gandhi promised to suspend the civil disobedience movement and attend the second roundtable conference. Now, in the second roundtable conference, Gandhi alone represented the Indian National Congress. All minorities such as Christians, Muslims, Anglo-Indians, and Europeans decided either separate electorates or reservation of seats. The question of independence was never discussed. As a result, Gandhi came back to India disappointed and he renewed the movement. But due to the rigorous repression exercised by the government, the movement was again called off in 1934. Now, what was the impact? Women empowerment increased because women were empowered because women participated in large numbers. Revivalism occurred. New methods of gathering mass supports were used, such as Manjari Sena, Panara Sena, Patrikas, Prabhat Feris. Non-violence was used effectively. Untouchability decreased. Untouchables were allowed access to the temples and wells of higher classes. To pacify Indians, the government had come up with the Act of 1935.